most important things to think about when you're using these devices or in terms of basic usability, the first and most important thing, and it is amazing how many people do not do this, you need to focus the unit, okay? Yes, I do understand that you don't necessarily want loads of technology and you want it to be easy to use and you just want to pick it up and spot stuff, but I promise you now, the settings in these are designed so you can get optimal performance no matter what the conditions are. So the first and most important one is your diopter focus, so the one at the back. As you can see, we've got the lens on. I've got my eye pressed up against the eyepiece. I am twisting this until the numbers, not the image, because I've got the lens cap on, the numbers in the bottom of the screen look crisp and clear. What this is doing is marrying my eye to the screen that I'm looking at. Everybody's got a different quality of eye. I know I certainly do. Between the two that I've actually got, one works perfectly and one hardly works at all. So it's going to be very different depending on which eye I'm looking through. The second focus is the objective focus. So now I've got this lined up perfectly, I can take my lens cap off, magnetise it to my hand strap, which is nice and neat, and then I can focus depending on how far away I'm trying to hone in on. So if I'm looking at something that's 10 yards away, let's say I'm looking at a badger 10 yards away, I'm going to focus it very different to if I'm looking at a deer that's 150 yards away. Those are the two most important things. If you never play with those, you're never going to get the best image possible at any given time. The other most important things to think about is brightness and contrast. So in the menu button here, that middle button there, again, all the pulsars are very similar in terms of how they operate. If we're looking at a Pixfra, again, it's quite similar. You hold menu buttons down, it brings up your menu, you get your brightness and contrast. Brightness and contrast is very important depending on the conditions. Obviously, sunlight, heat, all these kind of things. If there's lots of sun through the day, there will be a lot of heat on the ground. Maybe objects won't stand out as well as they should do. So brightness and contrast, elevating it from between 0 and 20, depending on where you want to sit for the best image. And then the other most important thing is something called user modes. So you'll see these in devices and it will give you a sign. It will either say N, H or U. You'll see it in the bottom left-hand side of the screen. N stands for normal, H stands for high, and U stands for ultra. These are amplification settings to be able to get optimal performance in challenging conditions. Yes, I know that if you see ultra, ultra must mean better. That is not correct. So on a day like today, it's crisp, it is clear. We have little to no humidity. Obviously, it's a great day. So I would probably just have it in normal because I don't need to push the sensor anymore. If I push the sensor more by putting it in ultra, I might just get actually a bit more noise and the image might not look as good. If suddenly the heavens open, it starts absolutely smashing it down with rain, I would change it to ultra. So then I could hopefully get a slightly better image in the more challenging conditions. Obviously those are really important. Things to obviously think about as well, making sure that you preserve your battery life. The more you look after this, the longer it'll last. You've obviously got in here lots of different settings in terms of changing passwords, changing loads. There's so many things in here that you can change, but the most important thing, like I said, is get the focuses right, get your brightness and contrast right, and put the user mode into what you need to put it into.